All right, we'll call this city council meeting to order August 17th at 6 p.m. We're at Oak Ridge City Hall and on the Zoom platform for those participating remotely. First order of business, a pledge allegiance, if you would. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jack, could you call the roll, please?
Councilor Coker,
Here.
Councilor Bjornson,
Here.
Councilor Charman,
Here.
Mayor Hutchins,
Here.
Councilor Kenyon,
Here.
Councilor Hollett,
Here.
All right, all here. Four is additions, corrections, and adjustments to the agenda. I know some right off the top. So first, 10.6, we are going to postpone to another meeting. The agenda item documentation was not all there. Item 13.1, which is resolution 16, 2023, the ODAC resolution, still is the admin committee would like to have further look at it. So we'll postpone that one as well.
Which number was that?
13.1.
Thank you.
13.2 is ordinance 942, which deals with parades. The lawyer is still reviewing, so we will also postpone that to a future meeting. Any councilors have any changes to the agenda, additions, corrections on the Zoom? Anyone? No, anybody speak up if you do. In the room? No. All right. Moving on to public comment. We'll start on the Zoom platform. Is there any public comment on the Zoom? Nothing heard. Any public comment in the room? Okay. Any public comment? One more chance. Any public comment? Okay. Moving on to item 6, which is mayor comments, announcements, and proclamations. I have several. So at last reports, the salmon fire was at 95% contained, I believe, this morning. And that led to a lifting of the level 1 evacuation status for High Prairie and areas east of Oak Ridge. But I encourage you to almost always during fire season be in a level 1 type situation. Consider yourself that way. So with that, the smoke is still with us. So as you know, it's been pretty tough the past couple of days from healthy all the way to purple. So with that, there are purifiers available at the OIP office, and they go from Tuesday through Thursday, 10 to 1. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you have to be within city limits of Oak Ridge or West Fir. And in addition, if you're interested in volunteering to help distribute, they do need volunteers, particularly, I think is it next week? Yeah, next week, all days. It's not that difficult. I did it last year. You just sit at a computer and put in some information to a form and hand them a purifier. So I know that Oak Ridge Air got close to 900 of those things. So there should be plenty available. I encourage you, if you don't have one already, that the city's given you, or if you have a Winx that the city's given you, you can get the new one, which is Grove Pure, I think that's it right here. Grove Pure purifiers. So which are, it's a small cylindrical thing, and it does a much higher volume than the Winx. So if you don't have one of those, you're welcome to go pick one up. The applications for the vacant city council positions are due September 4th at 5 p.m. If you're interested, please submit to the city administrator by then. And the goal is to have it a process where an interview process and then a selection on what day, Jim?
On
Second meeting?
the first meeting of September at 5 p.m. We're going to start early at 5
Right.
p.m.
with interviews. Yep, and then perhaps the selection that same day.
Yes.
Okay. And lastly, as you know, we went through a short boil water period here for some areas of the city. There was a large getting that thing fixed, as well as the follow-up testing that was required and that he sent to a lab for sampling. They all came back clean, so the water is obviously drinkable again. Also like to thank the entire staff that that helped with the notifications, because we were door to door, I think, when we record that. So kudos to the staff for getting that thing done, and for the repair. With that, that's all I have, but 7 is council comments announcements. Is there any counselors with any announcements on the Zoom? Speak up if you do. In the room, Councilor Kenyon?
I have 2 quick questions regarding the consent agenda, and I know I should have asked this a little bit ago. I apologize, but it just came to me. When I was reviewing my packet today, I don't remember seeing minutes in our agenda packet. Did I just miss it? Or were they in a different email or something?
They were in James's email, I know that.
In the main email for the?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
And there was one sent a little late on set for 7:20, I think it was. That one was sent Wednesday.
Okay, and then my second question is, we had talked about in a different council meeting, adding our finance report into the consent agenda so that we can approve it during.
I've done it that way before, and I'm happy to do it that way. And obviously, if you have questions, you can pull it out and we'll do it at the end of the meeting. But to me, that's great. Yeah, when it's up. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, I don't know that was exactly made clear last time. I think you just made the motion that it would be, we'd have to make a motion to approve the finance report. I think it's better to do it during the consent agenda because it's all one thing.
I think it was part of the motion, just so you know. But yeah,
I'm happy to do that.
thank you.
Any other counselors with comments or announcements? Okay. Speaking of which, moving on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Is there somebody have a problem with the consent agenda? Do we need to pull something out, or can someone make a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I hear a second.
I'll second Counselor Hollett.
Thank you. All right, motion made by Councilor Tarman, seconded by Councilor Hollett. Jackie, would you call for a vote, please?
Councilor Johnson,
Aye.
Councilor Jarman,
Aye.
Mayor Catching,
Aye.
Councilor Cooper,
Aye.
Councilor Hollett,
Aye.
Councilor Kenyon,
Nay,
Okay, motion carries. Okay, just consent agenda have to be unanimous, James.
I don't think so. Let me check.
oh, back one more page. Yeah, keep going. See that list right there? That list tells you what each motion has to have in order to pass.
Order. Request,
No? Yeah, I assume it's good. All right, motion passes. No appointments tonight. 10, business from the city council. It starts with 10.1, which is NAMI request to use Greenwaters Park Community Center. James, can you introduce this, please?
Yes, all right. Believe that Ally Harris, the programs coordinator, with the National Alliance on Mental Health. Wayne County is with us tonight to give a brief overview of programs that they offer and now want to expand to Oak Ridge. As I'm sure a lot of you know, we don't have a lot of mental health services in Oak Ridge, and these programs will be free. There's flyers to explain 4 different programs that they are starting up. The main one, the one that's ready to go soon, meaning in October, is a family support group with facilitators who themselves have experienced family members with mental health issues. Run basically a support group for families who are going through the same thing. There's also a peer connection group. Folks with mental health issues are paired with other folks that have gone through that. Again, this is kind of a mile-high overview of their programs, but they participated in National Night Out. People are really excited about their services, and they're still looking for more facilitators to volunteer. And there's a free training they offer September 23rd and 24th. The ones doing that. But what they're requesting is to be able to use the community building at Greenwaters Park 1 to 2 times a month for their meetings, which will be about an hour and a half long. Obviously, we wouldn't do it on weekends and be unavailable if someone already rented the building was going to want to lose out on rental monies. So that is their request, and I will I'll let Ally introduce herself and a little bit more about the program. That's all right.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here at today's City Council meeting. As James beautifully explained, our mission at Nottaway County is to improve the quality of life for individuals living with mental health conditions and their families, friends, and loved ones through support, education, and advocacy. So this year, our outreach coordinator, Maddox Vickers, who you may know, spent their time getting to know the community of Oak Ridge at events such as the Tree Planting Festival and the United Methodist Church Resource Fair. I am here today to build on the relationships that they have made and inform you of our goal to expand our support groups across rural Lane County. So throughout our NAMI signature programs, we provide both peer support groups and family support groups that are approximately an hour and a half in length, just like James mentioned. And they depend on the availability of our facilitators. And I know personally, growing up in a rural community, I uniquely understand that each rural community is different and therefore has different needs. At these events, we've spoken to concerned family members of loved ones with mental illness specifically and plan to schedule a family support group in Oak Ridge by the start of October of this year. We currently have 4 interested participants and 2 pending facilitators from Oak Ridge themselves. And here's what I will need from you. I will need your help securing a location where this group can meet once or twice a month that allows for privacy, as this group is, as what happens in group or what is shared in group stays in group. I also need your help finding one more facilitator. We already have 2, so we need one more who is over the age of 18 and has lived experience supporting a loved one with mental illness and is able and willing to be trained. If you happen to know of anyone, please send them my way. I will put my email and my phone number in the chat, and any interested volunteers and or participants can fill out interest forms via our website, which I will also put in the chat. Thank you so much for your time. If you happen to have any questions for me, please feel free to let me know. I am happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, we'll hold the questions until after a motion. If, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion. I move to waive the fees to allow NAMI of Lane County to use Green Waters Park Community Building for mental health programs up to 2 nights per month for up to 2 hours, but not on weekends starting in October.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Counselor Tarman, seconded by Counselor Kenyon. Any questions of Ally or in general of the staff? Counselor Kenyon?
I wanted to find out, how is NAMI funded?
That is a great question. So we have many different sponsors. Most of our funding comes from our NAMI Walks event, which happens in May for Mental Health Awareness Month. This year we raised over $48,000 throughout our NAMI Walk 5K event. And then in addition, any additional funding will come through our community partners and any sponsors and individuals.
Okay. And then I also wanted to find out. Oh, I wanted to find out if you could also email the city council your contact information. And it might, it's probably on those flyers. Is it on the flyers that we've already received?
Yes, so my work email and my phone number is on those flyers. And then if it's during business hours, it will get transferred over to me.
Okay, thank you. I don't need you to send it. I already have it then.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Anyone on the Zoom, any counselors on the Zoom have a question or a comment? Any more in the room? See anything? Jackie, would you call for a vote, please? Oh, and 1 second, I'm going to restate the motion. I move to waive fees to allow NAMI of Lane County to use the Green Waters Park Community Building for mental health programs up to 2 nights per month for up to 2 hours, not on weekends starting in October. Is that right? Jackie?
Brian, I actually have one question
Okay. Please.
for the city administrator. Is there an expiration on how long this is proposed, like 3 months, 6 months, a year?
I believe Ally was telling me the programs can last up to a year, six months to a year. Is that accurate? Ally?
Yes. So it really all depends on the availability of our facilitators and their willingness and willingness to put on these support groups. So however long they can facilitate those support groups. But usually it lasts between 3 months and a year.
Okay, so the reason I raised the question is in the past for the Eugene Performing Arts and also the AA group, I believe we put a 6-month review time on that. So I just wanted to bring it up that to be fair and consistent to other groups that ask to use the same facility, maybe that's something that we need to consider. I do absolutely support NAMI. But I just think out of fairness for other groups that ask to use the Green Waters Park, we should consider either some type of review date.
Absolutely. I completely understand. And thank you so much for bringing that up.
I can do that, but I'll work out the details with her. And I'll make sure that we put in 6-month review.
Trying to hold the public comment. Yeah, hold your remarks for public comment if you could.
I thought you already asked it.
We do it again at the end of the session, so it'll be more time. Jackie, would you call for a vote, please?
Counselor Bjornson,
Aye.
Mayor Ketchum,
No.
Counselor Coker,
Aye.
Counselor Kenyon,
I,
Counselor Tarman,
Aye.
Counselor Howard,
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. On to 10.2, which is the city council minutes issue. James?
Right, so as council remember, we had a discussion, last meeting, as part of our council rules discussion about, expectations for our minutes. So I was tasked with doing some research on what was required by the ORS insofar as what has to be included in minutes, and also what's required from our council rules of procedure. So I did that research. I found that our council rules mirror pretty much exactly the ORS. Question came down to, what does it mean when the law says the substance of the discussion of the matter must be in the minutes? My reading of this, they include recordings as part of the minutes. The ORS specifically says minutes or recordings must include all information, including the substance in discussion. So what a lot of cities are doing, including the sample public meeting minutes provided by the DOJ for a fictitious Oregon, well, maybe it's real, I don't know, Oregon State Dungeon Scrap Commission. Probably is one. It's kind of bare bones where they will say things like somewhere after discussion, motion was made, Counselor A voted this way, B, C, and so forth. And really, I think that's what we should be doing with the minutes, is explaining what the issue was, how people voted. It's too subjective if we're expecting the city reporter to have to decide on their own whose comments were substantive, whose comments were not substantive, and are not that important. People may take offense if theirs isn't included, but someone else did. I think we just do away with that. Say there was a discussion. If folks want to see exactly what was said leading up to the vote, they can go to the recording. I think that's the easiest way. That's my recommendation. If we do want to go the other way, we can transcribe everything that's said. We cannot rely on the computer program to do it. It's always wrong. So we need to hire basically a court reporter. Those services cost anywhere from $35 an hour to $200 an hour. $200 an hour being certified court reporters. $35 an hour being someone from Craigslist or something. It's really cheap. But as it stands now, just kind of bare bones, it still takes hours to do, because you have to go back and make sure you order the votes correctly. Sometimes it's hard to tell, especially with some people lives and homes. So it would take hours and hours and hours if we're going to transcribe everything, which I just don't think we can afford. It would be great, but I just don't afford that. So that's my recommendation. That's option one here. Just the requirements of each meeting, which the bills, the ORS, and our rules. So that's my recommendation out of the three. On the agenda.
Okay, and understand that option one does not require a motion. The other two options would, or any option that someone comes up on their own. So given that, is there an option on the floor that someone would like to make? Going once, twice. Okay, nothing heard, so we will be doing option one. James?
Can you tell me what option one is?
Option one says only require the basics of each meeting to be recorded as per ORS 192.650.
Why wouldn't we need a motion to do that?
Because that's what we're now doing. For the most part, you'll notice.
Actually different than what.
Well, on the June 15 minutes, I simply took out, there were only 3 or 4 mentions of specific counselors or the mayor saying something. Stricken out. Stricken out and said after discussion, there was a motion. So all 4 sets of minutes are in this side. We were close to that anyway.
That said, if you would feel more comfortable with the motion, you're welcome to make that motion.
Unfortunately, I don't have a recommended motion in front of me. I didn't bring my device to be able to read all of these items. But I would definitely, let's see. Because the last motion was reconsidered at the very tail end of the meeting, I feel like we have to have another motion. So. I move to require the city recorder to prepare our minutes.
It's up in the top there, it says option.
Yeah, I just don't like the way that's worded. I want to do it different. I require the city recorder to prepare our minutes. Capturing the basic substance of the meeting. Per ORS or whatever the requirements are.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Kenyon, second by Councilor Bjornson. Any discussion on this? Any further discussion or questions of staff? Councilor Kenyon?
Yeah, I wanted to point out that the way that it's been suggested to completely remove everything except for the motion and the vote would really limit people who want to read minutes from being able to know what happened. And that was pointed out, and that's why we had to rescinded the motion or whatever it was we did at the last meeting. Because we had people from the audience who made that suggestion that it would really limit them and cause, while it's handy for some people to sit down and rewatch a 2-hour video to see everything that happened, that might not be the preference for all people. You might want to be able to just read through what happened. And I really think that it's possible to reflect the matters that were discussed without going verbatim for the whole meeting. Obviously, other cities are doing it. They're summarizing. This one is a good example of how they summarized. Marine biologist said yada, yada, yada. This other person, they just kind of summarized. I feel like our minutes do not have to say Councilor Kenyon said, and so said, and so said. It could just be a short summary of this is the matter that was discussed, and some people felt it was good, or some people, I don't know, just a summary. I don't see why that would be that hard.
Any other comments or questions? All right, so if I got it right, Councilor Kenyon, you moved to have the city recorder capture the substance of the agenda items in accordance with as per ORS 192.650. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay, Jackie, would you call for a vote, please?
Councilor Coker,
Aye.
Councilor Sharman,
Nay.
Mayor Cutchin,
Aye.
Councilor Howard,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilor Bjornson,
Aye.
All right, motion carries. On to 10.3. That's concerns regarding animal laws. James?
All right, as council remember during the last meeting, Public Safety Committee Chair Trudy Hammond, here tonight, read a letter which public comments which is attached to it, expressing her concerns about animal services provision by SPUR. She attached a list of animal abuse and neglect laws, which I expanded to include the full language of the laws she mentioned, and also added some additional ones for specific animal crimes against animals. I also included a copy of our ordinance, which is for violations of all the animals, such as dog at large, barking dog, those sort of things. After Trudy read her letter, started by council to add the issue to the next city council meeting for further discussion of the issues. So I provided those materials. In addition, at some point I was asked to also add copy of our current contract with City of Westford for police services. Then some contract Westford has with Lynn County Animal Services. So better understand what our police department does and does not provide in terms of animal services for Westford. Short answer is we don't do animal services for Westford, Lynn County does. So I provided some materials as requested. I also wanted to note that our police department is sending an officer to a 4-day animal control training class September 12th, 15th. And we've also had prior training, which is a 1-day on animal law a couple of years ago. Got Chief Martin online and available. Mike Pearson is also available. She was for further discussion, but kind of a discussion item, and that's direction of council, so there's no specific action.
Right, other questions of staff or of Chief Martin, who is staff? But I had a couple. So James, the police contract with Westford specifically states we do not do animal control services.
Correct.
But there probably are instances if the animal control is endangering the safety of a human, that they might be required by the contract to do that or not.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't stand by if someone was getting torn apart by an animal. We would then have Lake County Animal Services coming to take over the investigation, but we would certainly respond to protect people. Same thing if there's an animal large and two citizens start fighting each other, but now you've got person on person assault, we definitely respond to that. Because we don't do the full investigation of the cases involving animal law. Like, is that accurate, Chief?
Yes, that's accurate. We do animal control services for Oak Ridge, and our contract cities Lowell and Westford both contract with Wayne County Animal Services.
Okay. So this is also being heard by the Westford City Council, I take it.
Yes,
I mean, that's where it really belongs, right?
for that part of it, it was part of Trudy's concerns, but I think her views were kind of broad in the letter.
Any further questions before we move on?
Could we hear from Trudy?
Do you have a question for her? I
Well,
don't want to leave it all the way open, but
I actually thought that it said somewhere in our thing that we would be. I mean, I know we had the public comment last time, but didn't it say that? Right here, Hannon plans to attend the meeting to further discuss the issues.
I also would like to hear from Trudy, what she might have to say.
does anyone disagree with hearing from Ms. Hammond? Okay, Ms. Hammond, you're welcome. Please limit it to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I know that in August of 2020, our then mayor addressed Westford police contract and its vague content regarding animals. The CA then stated we left it out of this contract because we don't want to do animal control for West Burke. So a counselor asked for a clarification question in which that question was diverted to the chief at that time for the asking, because the contract was then passed without receiving any answers or edits. I asked now again, what would constitute an animal call a criminal case in 2023? So crimes against animals is different than animal services, in my opinion. And I'm hoping that through that training that James has set up for our officer, that he can come back and better educate our community in that difference, so that we know when we can and cannot call and what we can and cannot expect. The other thing I'd like to share is that I spoke with Sasha Elliott, which is the director at Green Hill, and currently we don't have any charge for any animals at large that get scooped up in Oak Ridge and go to Green Hill, because there's no contract and there hasn't been one since prior to 2015. So I'm hoping that maybe council can consider, where CA can consider reestablishing a relationship with Green Hill regarding that issue. And then also moving forward to the 2023 Westford contract with the police department. The Westford stipulates under section of courts number 5 that all revenue generated by Westford citations in municipal court cases will be divided equally 50-50 between the two cities. So the contract is 60,000 plus whatever goes through the court that where like a fine gets paid, and then the city splits that payment of that fine. Or what happens if it doesn't go to court but somebody still pays the fine? Does that also get 50-50 split?
Whatever's paid.
Whatever it's paid, whether it's court or not. Correct.
Right, they don't show up if something.
Okay, and then the contract also states under police responsibilities and number 3B, the Oak Ridge Police shall serve citations drafted by Westford City staff upon request as soon as possible based on workload and call volume. I'm kind of confused at what exactly that means, if maybe I can get a clarification on that.
So that is, if the city of Westford will issue citations to folks for violations of their ordinances, like dog at large or tall grass, littering, those kind of things. So they write it out. If we do an investigation, and we simply deliver the citation to folks. Sometimes people are upset when they receive the fine, so. It's easier.
Okay.
Thanks, Ms. Ham. You're done. Yeah, sorry.
That's 3 minutes?
Yeah.
So I do have questions now. I was wondering what is it your goal then to ensure that the city is, that our city police in Oak Ridge, for Oak Ridge, are following all the whatever protocol is if someone is abusing their own animal? Is that what I'm picking up out of this?
Well, that's definitely a piece of it. If a person's abusing an animal and it gets reported, I would hope that our police department under contract would go investigate or arrest the person that's abusing that animal, because who else is going to do it? Lane County coming from an hour drive, the animal could be dead by the time they got there. There's 10 dogs shot, stabbed, and and then the other is the clarification of in 2020, the mayor then had expressed how vague that contract was regarding animal services, and at that point she had asked for it to be a little more defined. And it's my opinion, comparing those two contracts, that which is this current contract is good until 2025, but it's still just as vague. And I'm
I'm gonna talk in a minute. Could you wait a minute?
I didn't find it vague. It says right there, animal control services are not included in this contract. That basically is what it says. So James, if Michael got a call, 911 call for an animal problem in Westford, what would her action be?
We did, well, actually, I can let Michael answer directly, but it
Sure.
should be passed on to the service.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Chief, you know the answer to that, or Michael?
So if we get an emergency call, we're going to respond, but we're still going to forward that to Lane County Animal Control Services. Because in my opinion, for Lowell and Westford, Lane County Animal Services would do anything to do with animals. We're criminal stuff for people. Except
Right.
for City of Oak Ridge, that's different. City of Oak Ridge will handle all animal control calls.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have something.
Is that you, Counselor Holly? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to know if Trudy had anything else she wanted to say.
Well, I could say, I have a question regarding who, it says here, the City of Oak Ridge responds to calls, non-emergent service crimes not in progress or determined to be non-serious by the chief of police or other supervisor. Who would the other supervisor be for a case of a call like that? Is that the only discretion of an officer to address an issue that's happening? So, you know, who would be the other supervisor here?
One of the sergeants, Sergeant Pearson or Sergeant Madison.
May I ask a clarifying question on that? Does that mean that if he happens to be out of the area and he's assigned someone else to be him while he's here, is that when that would happen?
Yeah, chain of command.
Chain of command, yeah. Okay, so otherwise it would always be him if he was here.
All right, thanks very much, Ms. Hammond. All right, moving on to 10.4 asphalt contract at the OIP proposal from the Parks Committee. Who's handling that one?
Well, there's not much to handle at this point. Council wanted it to come back to this meeting. Rick Silster is now taking over the issue. He just met on Monday with Parks Committee. Sorry, Parks and Community Services Committee. Yes. So they're discussing next steps, going over ideas. I did include some example feasibility studies the council asked for. It's they want to take a look and see what a feasibility study on the track looks like. A lot of them had pump track and mountain bike together, but just give you an idea. So yeah, nothing for tonight, but just to let you know that Rick Silstra is handling it with our folks in office.
Okay, any councilors have questions about the information provided in the packet?
Thank you for providing all of those sample feasibility studies. But moving forward, I just wanted to find out if we're going to be looking into, because I think this was brought up at our last meeting, what it would cost to get our own feasibility study and some maybe quotes from companies that do that.
So at this point, we're just looking forward to expect the content of the feasibility study. We haven't moved on yet to pricing, but we're just looking
Okay.
what to expect.
It's in line though,
Yes,
Thank
yes. So when we do go out, we know what we.
what we're looking for.
Okay, any further questions? Moving on to 10.5, plan of action letter for the fiscal year 21-22 audit. Things.
All right, as we discussed the last meeting, we got the fiscal year 21-22 audit in. In that audit, there were two areas of concern or deficiency, rather, which the city's already kind of responded to directly to our auditors and included some of the information in the audit itself. But we are required by law to submit a letter to the Secretary of State Audit Division, explaining what those deficiencies are and what we're going to do about it. So I drafted a letter that has to be signed by the mayor. The council approves it, and it can can be approved by simple motion, but then we have to attach the minutes to the letter to show the Secretary of State that council didn't see it. So that is plan of action, or the plan of action letter is to hopefully approve it tonight with or without any edits. And then we'll approve the minutes during our special session on the 31st in order to get in by the 30-day deadline. So we will have those minutes of this meeting out council sometime next week. So look at it when the special session.
Okay, I hear a motion.
I'll move to approve the plan of action letter for fiscal year 21-22 audit.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Counselor Kenyon, seconded by Counselor Coker. Any discussion, questions of staff about the letter? Counselor Kenyon?
James, I caught in part of what you were saying that, the minutes have to be approved and sent along with it. But I wondered if, is there a way to approve this without requiring that step, or is that?
No, so they require that it's either done by motion or by a resolution.
Oh,
So it could have drafted a
Takes even
resolution.
longer.
Yeah.
okay, I just wanted to hear what the other option was. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
The only question I had is, there's these deficiencies. I just remember the thing about the going concern. Is that something we don't have to really address? That's up to us.
Correct, that's a
Or we
going,
need to take care of.
that's a going concern versus deficiency.
Okay.
All right, restate your motion, make sure you're okay with it. Because I don't think you caught the full,
Oh, yeah, I don't have the examples, so.
so let me know if you're okay with this, or you can say, Counselor Kenyon moved to approve and adopt the fiscal year 21-22 audit report plan of action letter to be signed by the mayor and then filed with the Oregon Secretary of State.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jackie, would you call for a vote, please?
McCutcheon,
Aye.
Charman,
I
Councilor Coker,
Aye.
Councilor Kenyon,
Aye.
Councilor Bjornson,
Aye.
Councilor Holick,
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And item 11, business from the city administrator. 11.1 is the Junction City dispatch update.
I just want to give you another update. We all got very excited with the new chief of Junction City. We're all ready to go, and another dispatcher quit. So we're delayed by a couple more weeks for the changeover, but we have another meeting today with the new chief, and everything's still a go. It's just going to take a little bit more time to get all the dispatchers hired. They're hiring 2 more, and then also training for some of the EMS stuff, like the CPR over the phone and stuff. Their dispatchers went through that training, but it's been a while since they've had to do it, so they want to get more training on those measures before they take over our department. So we're probably a month and a half out now rather than 1 month. So we're getting there.
Sheriff Harold's good with covering you.
Yeah, still same agreement. We just have to get 30-day runs.
Any other questions about that from council? All right, 11.2 WAC remodel update. James?
All right, our architect, Kurt Wilson, is here with us tonight to explain issue that's come up. The basic version, or the short version, is that there's a grant out there for $1 million that it's a FEMA grant that first has to be approved by Oregon Department of Emergency Management. And it's leftover money from a grant that was not used. So the money is truly there. It's truly coming to somebody in Oregon, and we highly qualified. And we've been encouraged from Lake County Emergency Management. They asked us to apply. So all the signs are good. Problem is because it's a FEMA grant, we cannot start work on the remodeling that we are applying for funding for. We have to get the money first and then spend it. So this would delay us in totally replacing the roof by a year, possibly a little bit longer than a year, depending on the season. Because that's how long it takes to go through the grant process. However, Kurt has talked to roofers, and we believe that we can repair the roof now, which will actually let us open it for use sooner than we would if we were going to totally replace the roof this time. But then we can wait and see if we get this grant. All signs are we are highly, highly qualified for this grant. So my personal opinion, it's worth waiting. Worth waiting to completely replace the roof and instead of repair it now. Because there's a very, very good chance we'll get that extra $1 million. I think that would be worth it. So yes, we would be spending, I think it was up to $30,000 roughly to do all the roof repairs and then replace it later for a cost of about $1 million. But I think it's worth that. The number one, get open sooner, but to get this $1 million. I think it's worth that. That's my personal opinion, my recommendation. The WAC subcommittee met last week and heard the same information that will be provided to you today by Kurt, and they voted unanimously to just do the repairs, wait and try to get the FEMA grant. So basically the same as my recommendation. And then the WAC funding committee is meeting over email, and I believe the mayor has update on their recommendation tonight as well. And then Chris has some more information, including some new information just came out today.
So the funding committee met last month and discussed it in detail, but there was still information that we were waiting on. And so when that came available, I pulled the committee this week, and it was unanimous to repair, with the comment that there is a concern that if we move people in, that when it comes time to actually rip off the roof and replace it, are they negatively impacted or forced to move out again? That would be a negative consequence of it, and maybe something we should think about as we go to move people back in. But that was the funding committee's decision to repair, and then later improve or replace. Kurt, are you there? I see you.
Yes, hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for having me. James, that was a really the most thorough short description I've heard, so that was great. I don't have really anything more to add to that, but I'm available to answer questions. I guess I'll say one thing, that the broader issue is what's an improvement and how far are we restricted in doing improvements, and this kind of a more of an intellectual conversation about repair versus improvements. We're quite confident that we can proceed with repairs now to the building without jeopardizing the eligibility for the grant. Therefore, doing the repairs to the roof is one, but also, for instance, the comment that the mayor made about people moving into the space and then having to come out when the roof gets installed. There are some things that can be done below the roof, such as remove water damaged ceiling tiles as a repair strategy now, and eliminate some of those things before occupants start coming into the building, before the roof replacement is done.
Councilor Kenyon, you have a question?
Yeah, how difficult is it to move forward with construction on replacing a roof? If we did have tenants, would we need to ask them to leave? Or is it possible to have that done while they're still occupying the space below?
Re-roofing over an occupied space is very common. And I would not anticipate that there's a need for occupants to have to move out. There may be some periods where some dust protection is needed for a short period of time, but I don't, occupying the space in a re-roofing is not something I would be concerned. I'm not too concerned about.
Thank you.
Any other counselors have a question of Kurt Wilson or the staff? What was the late breaking information, James?
Found a little asbestos in the roof. Which in of itself may, like if council wanted to go to, hey, let's totally replace the roof right now and not apply for the grant, the asbestos factor might prevent that anyway, potentially.
All right, go ahead, Kurt.
We 2 weeks ago, field work was done to take samplings of the existing roof assembly and some other parts inside the building to, and then laboratory testing was done, and I got a phone call late afternoon today that there was asbestos confirmed in the roof membrane. That's something we have to deal with, and exactly how we are going to deal with that, and exactly what the content of the asbestos is, where it is, and how it gets handled is will come with the actual report. And so doing the repairs now gives us a little bit more time. The other important development as that sampling is that we did find that there are the original roof is gone, and there are some components under the roofing, like insulation, that are intact and can remain. So we were not, the reason why you do sampling is to make sure you understand what you've got. But what we found was not necessarily what we anticipated, and so it's a good and bad information. It's good in that there are some components that we can keep, but the challenge is, the bad side of this is, we're going to have to remove the membrane with a asbestos certified demolition contractor, not just a roofer. So there's some complexity in that process that will happen.
Thanks, Kurt. And the repairs, the patching the roof does not require the asbestos guy.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't have enough, until we get a better information about what the asbestos content is. We don't know for certain, but my expectation is that we are going to be applying the material, the repair material, on top of what's there. And so we are not going to, I don't anticipate that we're going to be releasing asbestos, which would be the concern if we were having to take something out. So my hope is that it's not going to, the repairs aren't going to be affected by this news, but we'll need to get the report and then work with the roofer to confirm that.
Thanks, Councilor Kenyon.
In something you were saying a little earlier, talked about, I think that they did some sampling in the interior walls as well for asbestos. Or maybe what I should ask specifically is, do you know at this point if there's any other places in the building with asbestos other than the roof?
Yes, so that's a great question, a great subject. So there is a report that I have sitting on my desk back here that James has reviewed, and that was done in the late 80s, that documents asbestos at the time in the building. Most of that was removed, not all of it. We believe that I believe, and the asbestos contractor who's done the work believes that some of the flooring in the gym, in the adhesive, probably wasn't tested the way the protocols and standards are now. And if it was tested, which it hasn't been yet, it has asbestos. But that's an assumption that we should. We didn't actually. We were sampling for the roof and ceiling tile. The ceiling tile does not have asbestos, and that's been confirmed twice. Another area in the building, which is the janitor's closets in each of the classrooms between the restrooms, there's a janitor's closet. They have a gray wall panel, which looks like, if you're familiar with backer board that you might put behind tile, a fiber cement-like product. But it's original, and it's actually an asbestos cement product. So that panel has asbestos as well. And that was in part documented in some areas in the 1980s report.
Thanks, Kurt. Yeah, more.
Yeah. So my next question would be, does it seem prudent that we would maybe get an estimate for removing all asbestos from the building before we proceed with anything? Because I do know that asbestos removal is very expensive. And I mean, is there a point at which it could just not make sense to continue with a project of rebuilding this building?
If that's a question directed to me, one of the things that we'll be working on is getting a cost estimate for removing the asbestos. And we can make some assumptions about the flooring and have that as part of the budgeting. We put some initial numbers to that in the past, and I don't recall exactly what that is, but the building's going to take some budget to get it usable and get tenants in there. I think these are all obviously valid questions, but I think there's a tremendous amount of value in that building. And it provides flexibility. It's got just a lot of spaces that can be used for community and other uses. And I think continuing to move forward is a prudent measure. And really what I believe the question that's being asked is to proceed with roof repairs now. I believe that's a prudent measure and allows the question that you asked to be continued to be asked without a real significant initial investment right now.
And one last question. We anticipate using a lot of, if not all of, grant funding to do all of our updates on that building. Do grants tend to cover expenses that involve removing asbestos, or is that an issue that we would have to make sure we were paying out of our own pocket?
I'm not I don't know that I can answer the question about potential grants that we're not aware of and whether that can be done or not. The one of the strategies with the comprehensive approach that the funding committee is looking at is trying to think about how these grants work together. And it may be that a grant pays for something that we would otherwise think that the primary funding source from the legislature would pay for, and therefore that 1.5 million allocation could cover some of those grant funded items. So that remains a moving target in my view.
Yeah, and kind of go further on that is if, like in this case, if we get a grant that for smoke hardening or fire hardening, we could use that money to do some things that we were planning to do with the 1.5, which is really kind of unrestricted funds. So we could use that money from the 1.5 to do asbestos work, because that wouldn't probably be part of the smoke hardening grant. Just an example, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kurt, for all your work to date and in the future, I know.
Thank you.
All right, on to 11.3 Bedrock and Salmon Fires update, James.
I think you covered everything there, but I did print some of today's updates from fire crew, and they're available by the agendas and also on.
Yeah, the one thing I did see this morning was I know the Bedrock fire, the threat to Oak Ridge is kind of the southern half of it. And that's part of it. If you look at the map, it's kind of a boot that is fully contained. And so it's not going to come south, as well as in between that fire and here is all burn scars. So there's not really a lot of fuel left on the ground. So I feel pretty good, very good about Bedrock and very good about Salmon. So I think let's focus on smoke. But,
for agenda item 11.2, were we expected to make a motion for that one, or I guess?
do you need a motion?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah, let me check.
Oh, and I didn't know.
Sorry about that.
It said something about recommended motion. So.
Oh, yes, we do need repair and improve. Sorry about that. So let's go back to that, and we're back to 11.2. And we're looking for a motion to get the architect to either proceed with repair or improve, one or the other. So if we can have a motion. Yes.
I move to direct architect Kurt Wilson to proceed with option 1 for fixing the roof of the WAC.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
A motion made by Councilor Tarman, seconded by Councilor Johnson. Any further discussion? I think we had a good discussion on it. If not, the motion was to direct architect Kurt Wilson to proceed with option 1 for fixing the roof of the WAC. Jackie, would you call for a vote, please?
Counselor Kenyon,
Aye.
Counselor Bjornson,
Aye.
Counselor Hooper,
Aye.
Counselor Howard,
Aye.
Mayor Cutchin,
Aye.
Counselor Tarman,
Aye.
All right, motion carries. On to 11.4 OIP Lot 20 sale update. James?
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so we did finally get a concurrence letter, the okay, go ahead letter from the USDA regarding the sale of OIP Lot 20. So they sent the letter out, which I guess according to the original agreement, it's required that give a copy of the letter to the mayor and full city council, so they're aware of it. Also kind of outlines the rules of the original agreement. So I provided that to council, so just for information.
Okay, thanks. Any questions of James on Lot 20? All right, moving on to 11.5 other city business updates, 8:31 food truck portable restroom work session.
Yeah, so I kind of added this just because I always
Sure.
think of something last for the meeting. Yes, just wanted to remind folks, we do have a city council special session and work session on food truck and portable restroom draft ordinances, and they will be here on Thursday, the 31st. There's information online about it. Especially if folks know anyone who has a portable food unit or has a lot of food, portable restrooms, have them come in, give their input during that work session. It's actually all I got for other business.
Okay. See. 13, we postponed both of those items. 15.1 finance report. James or Colleen?
So I, have some issues with them getting the, budget numbers to kind of match up with everything. So I'm working on that, took me hours, many hours to get what I have in here to get this started. It's weird because I have to put it in a spreadsheet, so when it matches my spreadsheet, then it goes in the system and it will match. And so now I gotta go through, find them and look where we're at, other than that.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
Any counselors have questions on the finance report? Or actually, let's I hear a motion on the finance report. How's that? Okay.
I don't have a motion, but I have questions.
I'd like to get the motion done so we can. James, do you have a copy of the motion to accept the finance report that you mailed out?
I don't, because I forgot about the part that I think it'd be something like, would you approve the monthly finance report?
Okay, I'll move that we approve the month of July
July.
finance report. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, motion made by me, seconded by Councilor Tarman. Now, Councilor Kenyon, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a few. Do you have the balance for Banner Bank and the LGIP
The balance for the general account, or what are we looking for?
The bank balances for the Banner Bank account and the LGIP account that were included in the motion when we designated what we'd like to see in our finance report every month.
Look, I can send it out.
Okay, we'll send out. Are we current in our monthly reconciliations?
No,
Do you know where we're at?
yes, we're on April.
You're still on April?
We were on February last time.
And my last question would be, I might have to word the question twice. Tell me if this makes sense. Are we having all of our journal entries verified by a second set of eyes?
Yes,
Okay, can you describe the process that, and I mean, it's currently happening as they're being done? Okay,
we're also like,
in our, with someone within our facility and not an external?
Correct.
Okay. That was all I had.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Comments? If not, Jack, would you call for a vote, please?
Counselor Holland,
Aye.
Counselor Drummond,
I,
Counselor Bjornson,
Aye.
Counselor Kinning,
Aye.
Counselor Coker,
Aye.
Mayor McCutcheon,
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to 15.2 OPD report. James or Chief?
I think the chief is still on.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, and citizens, the July 23 staff report. Oak Ridge PD had 30 case reports, 308 incident reports, 5 arrests, 3873 violation issued. And those were split up with 29 of those were from Oak Ridge. So that's case reports, incident reports, 279. Westford was 1 case report, 9 incident reports. Lowell was 0 case reports and 20 incidents. And our court fines were, municipal court was 20,557, Lowell 0, and Wayne County Circuit Court 0. A couple of officers have been playing basketball with the kids at the gym for community policing. We did the Blackberry Jam event, so myself and several reserves worked in Lowell for Blackberry Jam. That's and to report, other than just one of the things with actually both cities, or actually all 3, is code enforcement stuff. And I've been trying to work with Matt Dahlstrom on doing some problem solving for that. So hopefully the city administrator and I, as we work that through with Matt, will have more information for our council first and then the other 2 councils.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions, Chief, on this? Appreciate it. Moving on to 15.3 Fire Department. Chief Follett, are you dialed in?
He was online, but he had to step away for a minute, so he'll probably miss report tonight.
Okay. Anything to add before we move on, James, on fire?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. 15.4 Public Works, Robert or someone else?
Actually, if I could go back, Chrissy, do you know, is the retirement party for Guy open to the public?
No,
Rick, are you doing this one?
I do have it in front of me, you ready?
Yep.
We do also have Robert online if anybody had any questions. So for the month of July, water distributed was 27 million gallons, wastewater treated is 5.9 million gallons. We had 44 service orders, 11 locates. No wastewater repairs, however, we did routine cleaning in our normal problem lines. We had 1 water leak on a 2-inch main on First Street. Again, this is only for July. Other tasks performed were streets were striped, potholes repaired, and catch basins cleaned out. Cherry Street water service replaced and prepped for the street rebuild. Replaced sign standards on second line, from driver error, park mowing and maintenance, weed brush and abatement on city streets, right of ways, and city properties. And vehicle maintenance.
Counselor King, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I wanted to know if we could get a status update on the progress towards getting that alley done on Hill Street. That we talked about, I think, back in March. Being able to
So,
get that work done.
yeah, we have been discussing that in the Parks Community Services Committee as far as our priorities. Other than that, we have not found any activity grants to really suit that one yet. So that's what that was at.
So then my question would be is, does it have to be done with a grant? I thought that we were presented with some numbers that it wouldn't actually cost very much. That we would have in our street fund.
Well, if you will, for our street fund, I do feel that we should follow our TSP. As part of our priorities, and that unfortunately is not one of them. That's why we were looking for grant funding, so that we're. Well, we would occasionally veer from our TSP, that's usually for grant funded options.
Okay, and have you already looked for some grants for that or someone?
Yes, activity grants, usually I'm trying to tie the trail grants because. If I'm able to tie the Hill Street into all of those alleys in that neighborhood. That connects us to the proposed rails and trails program, we're trying to make that connection. But there's just not a lot going on in that manner that I found it's a really good fit because I was trying to be so wide. As far as the scope going into the alleys, a lot of things actually find they're like, stop to get to the trail. Those are the main that I'm kind of into.
So would it be more beneficial than to look for grants that aren't part of connectivity?
As far as just improving alley grants, I've not seen anything like that yet.
Rick, would a small city allotment allow that kind of work to be done for next year or the year following?
Potentially, yes. But that's potentially because usually when we apply for the SCA's, it's for actual streets and not alleys. So I don't know if that's a good fit for the SCA, and even then, I'm not so sure that right back to the ESP.
Yeah. Well, that, it wouldn't be enough to do every alley.
Right. And as far as the order of importance that we've already been established. ESP. So with that being said, I would prefer to reserve the SCA responsibility allotment grants for those that are already identified in the CSP.
Okay, so I'd like to make a comment that maybe we should be considering revisiting the Hill Street issue, because it was actually my impression that we would be kind of getting on this matter and it wouldn't be dragging out for years and years, and now it's kind of sounding like it will. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't revisit that, if anyone else agrees.
To what end, I guess?
I guess to the end of resolving the matter. Getting it something done instead of dragging it out for 15 years.
To this one individual alley. When there are 80 more, 60 more in the city that have the exact same situation.
That's my opinion.
I had a question on Cherry Street.
I actually also have one more question.
Can we alternate? Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to have all.
No, I just wanted you to know that I
Okay,
wasn't
thank
done.
Cherry Street, the water service, what did that entail? What were you guys doing?
We replaced water to the services for 2 homes on that.
Okay,
And while I was not boots on the ground, Robert was. So if you like to,
no, I just wondered what you said, all you did was repipe it to two residences and then is there an expected start date for that project?
there is, but off the top of my head, I don't recall off the top of my head. Yes, there is absolutely an expected start date for that.
Soon, I guess it sounds like you're prepping for it. Okay, Councilor Kenny?
Yeah, I wanted to know also if you could give us an update on the status of the road that goes between the one corner of Salmon Creek Park and down to the the garden area, we were, part of the Hill Street issue was that that road would probably need to get closed and whatnot. What's the status on that?
That was still in process, unfortunately, yeah, but that was still in process. Still need to get that written up. Restricted easement is what you're talking about.
Restrictive easement, and so it just, something needs to be written up for,
We have to write a restricted easement. Then we have to present it to the homeowners, and if they deny it, then.
Yeah.
we have to steps. There was a whole decision tree step process that was outlined. Without in front of me, I don't want to misstep, so
Okay.
if you want, if you prefer me to bring that this decision tree back up again, I'd be happy to. But again, I don't have it in front of me, and I'm not giving the wrong answer.
no, I just wanted to know where we were at with that, so it's in progress. and-
It's in progress. It has not progressed very far. It has actually been a couple months since I've talked to legal about it. And then once to help us work on that decision tree.
Thank you.
Councillor Holland, is that you with a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something on, speak to the Hill Street matter that Dawn brought up. I also thought we were coming a little closer to some type of resolution. And if the resolution happens to be that we are putting this on the back burner for 5, 10, 15 years, I do think that we have, we need to make that known to the family that brought the complaint forward. And that we need to have that open discussion, because I too may have been under a different impression after we last spoke about this, that we would have a better resolution. And it sounds like maybe some things have changed in between the last time we talked about this publicly from now. So yeah, I kind of agree with Dawn that that needs to come back up to the plate, and we need to figure out what we're going to do.
I think we've held true to the resolution or the motion which said we are going to search for grants to solve the problem across the city. We are searching for grants to solve the problem across the city. So I don't know that we're saying it's gonna be a 15-year delay.
I don't remember that being the only option that we left on the table when we finished the discussion, that we were going to wait and search for grants.
It wasn't the only one.
That was the resolution.
Yes. James, I guess you can go dig through and bring back that motion, and or it's probably available on the city website.
It should be in.
Any case,
Actually, before I do my moment, I would like to talk about community development real quick. And reiterate the August 31st. I have packets for those who are food truck vendors who are not responding to my inquiries. If any of you would like to go visit food truck vendors, I would highly recommend it. I'm happy to give you the packets of what I have for them. They're not, I have reached out to them, but they have not responded. I definitely would like their input, so I would appreciate some help with that. If you all would care to.
I'd be happy to. You have a list of like local?
I do have a list of local, I do have a list of who is not responding to my outreach. I've also outreached to,
I'll meet you after.
yeah, I have them in my office. I have packets for everybody who is on, any food vendor who is on our business list. That packets for.
Okay.
And we also have been inviting, I don't have confirmation they're gonna come yet, but the executive director for the Oregon Mobile Food Vending Association, I've been in contact with them. We're also going over the draft version as well. And phone call them for next Friday.
Yeah, and it's important to know that folks don't have to be here to participate. They don't even have to be on Zoom to participate. They can write a letter.
Right, and that is stated in the flyer as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, any other questions? Council, you saw the hand up. Do you have another question?
No, I'm sorry. I'll take that down. Thanks.
With no other questions, we're down to item 16, which is executive session. You're ready to move into executive session, James?
We are, and I forgot to poll council on how we want to do it. We're gonna do the breakout room thing. This time with that.
Do we have the technical expertise to set that up?
I don't know if this one.
I can try.
Do it the old way.
Yeah, do it the old way, so I'm gonna log in my computer.
Before you do, let me make the citation here. So we're moving into executive session at 7:25 under ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations of persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions.
Yes, hit stop. I'm gonna log in. And then